Hello, everyone. So I wanted to share with you something that I figured out today. I was working on this document right here for a client, and she was trying to figure out where her ancestor, Johann Schreiber, was from. So she got this document from Ancestry, but there wasn't really a good description of where the document was from. She had just typed in his name most likely, and this popped up. So I was translating it and thinking this wouldn't take too long, just a little paragraph. But I got stuck right here, the town, the thing that she most wanted to know. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'll just keep translating because sometimes your brain gets more used to the script as you go along, and I'll come back to it at the end. But no luck, that didn't work. I was still stumped. So, what I did then was reached back out to my client and said, can you please send me the whole page that this document was on? Because for those of you who have worked with me before or listened to some of my webinars, you'll know it's so important to have the whole page to look at. Why? One, it gives you more of a sample of this specific author's handwriting. And two, it often gives you more examples of the format that your ancestor's document was written in. So if you don't know what a specific word is, you can look on someone else's record and see what the word is there, which will help to give you a better idea of what type of word it is in your own ancestor's record. So my client was nice enough to send me the whole page. So I got this then to look at, which was definitely very helpful. I had a lot more sample of the handwriting. And I was hoping that this town right here would be mentioned again in someone else's record, because then maybe in that record, it would be easier to read than in her record. So I kept looking at the different places for the towns, but here's one. Unfortunately, there was nothing that resembled my client's town. They all seemed to be different. So a little frustrating. So I thought, okay, what else can I do? So then I emailed her and I said, do you have any idea where this record could be from? And unfortunately, she didn't. She gave me the Ancestry citation, but it was very broad. So I went, okay, what can I do now? And then I decided to go to Ancestry myself and see if I could find anything out. So I went to Ancestry. I typed in his name and his wife's name that I had gotten from this record. And sure enough, I was able to pull up the whole record of the page that she had downloaded for me. But look at this. At the top of this page, this says 1872, which means 1802 and 70. So 1872, but it doesn't give us a location. However, on Ancestry, look what's written above this number. So this is the number. This is where it was cut off that I had seen in the document that she sent me. And above it was the location where the record came from. So this is why it's so important to always try to find the entire record, because this very important clue was right here at the top. So that helped me to figure out that her record came from Strasbourg. Whoops, right here. So I thought, great, okay, rather than looking in the entire German Empire, I have a little specific town to try to find where her town is from. Her town was not Strasbourg, but I thought it must be near Strasbourg since this was the book for it. So then I went to Meyer's Gazetteer and I typed in Strasbourg. However, I got multiple towns that came up in different areas. So I thought, okay, which one is it? So how to figure that out? So then I went back to the record itself and I started looking at the other towns around here. And one of them, here's a town. This is a town that had come up a couple times. And I thought it was Cielesta. This is kind of weird handwriting. But that turned up no results on Meyer's Gazetteer. But this CIEL was pretty clear. So I typed it in to Myers Gazetteer using the asterisk to represent the letters I wasn't sure about. And I see these results. Now, what I wanted to do here was look if any of these results were close to one of the Strasbourgs. So I go back here and I see Marienwerder, Westpreußen, Preußen, so West Prussia, Prussia, which matches up exactly with this. And that was the only match of those towns that matched up exactly. So then I look back at my word and think, could that actually be ENTA at the end? Honestly, this is the weirdest N I've ever seen. I do not normally see N's that look like that, but it could be. So based on the rest of the word, based on that it's in exactly Strasbourg, I was pretty sure that this was right. However, I wanted to double check. So what I did then was look back, let's go back to Ancestry, at the top of the page where it says the records from, and this says Landgemeinde Strasbourg. So it's a kind of a community of Strasbourg. So I typed in that exact phrase into Google and look what came up. This first entry. So I click on it because I see here it says German Strasbourg, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Click on it, and I can always change it to English down here if I want to. That's available. And again, it looks like, let's go back to the German, we have more, but it looks like the area is where I was looking before. So that's the same area. So that helps me to figure out that we're looking, that I'm pretty confident in that my town, my Strasbourg, is this one right here. However, I'm still trying to decipher this town, and it's not Strasbourg, it's not that seal town, that Sealente, it's something else. And for those of you who have worked with Prussian documents who have towns that are now in Poland, you'll know that the towns nowadays have Polish names, but in the past, they had German names. So I went and I found a list of German exonyms for places in Poland. And I thought that maybe this list would give me something to go on. So I did Control F to see if I could find anything. And I thought that word looked like store or something or other. And that turned up nothing. It just gave me this thing in history. So that was not helpful at all. So what I did then is I wanted to go back to Ancestry. And since I had this whole book, this gives me so many clues to work with. So I kept flipping through the pages and looking at all of the towns in different people's records to see if letters similar to my client's town would pop up. I still couldn't find any example of my client's town in all of these different records. I think I went through about 5 pages. But what I did find was the town of Lemberg. And so I typed into Google Lemberg, Preußen, because like I said, this handwriting was a little weird, so I wasn't confident about the town itself, and I wanted to make sure this really existed. So I typed in Lemberg, Preußen, which is Lemberg, Prussia, get an entry from Myers Gazetteer, look, in Strasbourg, Marienwerder, exactly where our record is from. So I click on that, and this is where I had my breakthrough. I was then able to click on this map, the historical map, and scroll around. And it turns out that this was my town right here, Klein Konoyad. So you can see here, I had originally thought that this letter was a B. It definitely can look like a B. But after seeing that klein, which means little or small, here and that gross there, I thought to myself, oh, that is an E-I-N, klein. And this crazy letter here is also an N. Remember our N from that seal town above, how it just looked like this exactly? This is not what an N normally looks like, but since we had that in our Sealenta town, we know that this is also an N. You can see that O hidden right here. a J with a dot, A and D. So we have Klein Konoyad. Now you might have been asking, why didn't I just do that up here when you found Strasbourg? That's a very good question. And I did try. I tried to click on this map. I moved, there's our Salenta town. I moved it around, but I couldn't find, I wasn't close enough to find that Klein Konoyad town. So that's why I had to keep looking at different towns and keep pulling up these historical maps and digging them around until I found a town that worked. So Lemberg, in this case, was our trick. Lemberg was close enough to the town where Johann Schreiber was from to pull it up on a map. So this probably took me about 2 hours of just trying to find a town, something that hasn't happened to me in years. But these Prussian towns with Polish names can be so difficult, especially when we're working with handwriting that's a little different than normal. So my advice to you is, one, always get the entire page. Two, make sure that you're looking at the whole page. Remember here, it was cut off here. So I had no idea what type of area I was looking at. But when I went on Ancestry, a great clue was written at the very top of the page, the Landgemeinde Strasbourg, and that put me on the right track for finding my town. I then went to Meyer's Gazetteer, tried to look on the historical map here once I was able to narrow down which Strasbourg it was. And remember, I did that by looking at the other towns in the other records of the page to see what area I was working with. And I found that by looking at that Salenta town. Typed in Landgemeinde Strasbourg into Google just to see what I got. And that didn't really help me too much in this case, but it would have if my town was on one of these lists. That could work in some cases. My last resort was going through various pages of this book on Ancestry, looking at town after town after town, typing them into Google with the word Preußen or Prussia after it until I found a town with my town right next to it. And like I said, I thought this word, let's see, we'll go back here. I would not have been able to tell you this was Klein Konoyad right off the bat. So really remember, when you're working with the script, keep an open mind. Remember that the letters that you might think it is at the beginning could be something totally different. So remember to use the rest of your page, use the rest of the pages in your book, and use your Google tools, and hopefully you'll be able to find your Prussian town. Best of luck.